Greetings and welcome. My name is Amanda Ford, and I'm a program manager for the State Water Board's Office of Public Participation. And I'm happy to be here today to MC the film screening of Paya at the Water Data Science Symposium. Please join me at the beginning of this meeting with a pause to reflect on all of the Californians who are struggling to obtain clean, safe, affordable water for drinking, hygienic, and cultural uses for their families and communities. And for those who continue to work through historic and current systems of oppression to achieve water justice. State Water Board staff are very honored to work alongside leaders from communities like the Paya Hunatu and the Owens Valley Indian Water Commission, and many others on these critical issues. Thank you for your dedication. Just want to let you know that this workshop and webinar, it is being recorded virtually through Zoom, and we'll stop recording during the discussion portion of this. The film will not be recorded. If you have any difficulties connecting, you can email our wonderful meeting technician, Anna Holder, who is also the person who coordinated this panel. So thank you, Anna. And her email is Anna, A-N-N-A .holder, H-O-L-D-E-R, @waterboards.ca.gov. So next, let's just look at some logistics to help us get through the meeting. We will be muting microphones of folks who aren't talking. So if you hear a little bit of delay sometimes in the speakers, we might just be catching up our mics. All of the attendees can only listen only, but you can, however, look at the bottom of your screen and you can submit a question and answer, and we have somebody on standby that will be answering those. You can also raise your hand if you want to engage with us, and you can raise your hand through the Zoom platform, or if you're on the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Okay. So now that we've gone through the logistics, I was just checking to see if there are any questions. Nothing's popped up. So it seems like folks are attended, they're interacting, and we're all good to go. So with that, now I would like to invite Greg Gearheart, who's the Deputy Director of the Office of Information Management and Analysis, also known as OIMA, to welcome our esteemed guest and panel. Greg, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you everyone else, all the guests. Thank you everyone for being here. I want to acknowledge also Maraid Jimenez and her amazing work to sort of like put all of this together in the background. It was just a hope and a dream a while ago. Welcome everyone. This is our film screening to kick off the Water Data Symposium this year. This is the second film screening we've done in this season, so to speak. We also did one on tribal perspectives earlier in the year. So this is really helping tie together and kick off the next 3 days of dialogue that will culminate with more discussions about tribal data and issues of vulnerable communities. So this is part of that whole thing. So thank you everyone for being here. I want to acknowledge that the land that is currently occupied by Cal EPA, and particularly my house here in Sacramento, as the traditional home of the Miwok and Nisenan people. So these sovereign people have been stewards of the land in this area since time immemorial, and the state of California is home to 109 federally recognized and more than 50 non-federally recognized tribes, representing the most diverse set of tribal nations anywhere in the United States. In 2019, our governor issued an apology for all wrongdoings committed to California Native Americans and established the Truth and Healing Council. So today we're celebrating all of our tribal neighbors as the ancestral stewards of this land, and we honor their sustained existence. So we welcome our Paiute tribal member guests today from the Eastern Sierra region, the Paya Hunatu. They are special guests today, and I would like to further introduce you to Teri Reddow. Teri is an enrolled member of the Bishop Paiute tribe. She lives in Bishop, California with her family. She's worked for the Owens Valley Indian Water Commission, which is a tribal consortium that provides water, environmental, and agricultural services to its member tribes for 26 years and has served as the executive director for the last 22 of those. Teri is at the forefront of efforts to negotiate tribal land and water for the Bishop, Big Pine, and Lone Pine tribes, and advocates for environmental protection and policy change in Paya Hunatu, in Los Angeles, and at the state and federal levels. So Teri, welcome, and thank you so much for letting us share this story.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited to share who we are and share a little bit about our water and our environment with everybody that's joined today. And we just thank you for this opportunity, and especially Anna Holder and Mariette Jimenez, who reached out to us and invited us to come and talk to you all and share our film. And, you know, we're really happy to be here and hope that this will help educate you, and that you folks will want to help us and support our efforts that we're doing. I'm gonna screen the film here shortly, and then we'll have a panel discussion. We'll have Monty Bengochia and Paul Huette, who are enrolled members of tribes here locally, that will be on the panel, and they'll be introducing themselves or telling a little bit more about themselves in just a moment. But I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity. And I hope to have some really great discussion when we get to that portion of the agenda this evening. Okay, so we're going to move on to our panel discussion. I just want to reintroduce myself and use our language. So Manahu, that means hello. Inaniane Teri Redal, Numanu Paya Hupue Nukpimatu, means hello. My name is Teri Redal. I come from the land of the flowing water. We have Paul Huette, who is going to introduce himself and tell a little bit about his background, and then Monty Bengochia. Then we have Kendall Noah, who works for the Water Commission. He's going to be moderating the panel. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul, and then Monty, and then Kendall.
Thank you, Teri. Manahu, everybody. My name is Paul Huette. I'm a Big Pine Paiute tribal member. I'm elected on by my tribe to the Owens Valley Indian Water Commission, Environmental Advisory Board, and the Housing Committee. That's for my tribe. I also like to kind of build some bridges and whatnot. So I sit on the Inyo County Water Commission and the vice president of the Big Pine Unified School District here in Big Pine, and also the chairman for the Firefighters Association. So I'm pretty well involved with the community and what goes on around here and in the environment. So thank you for having us, to the State Water Resource Control Board and all the attendees listening in and hearing our story. So thank you.
Monty.
Pardon me for being a little slow. I'll just say, oh, in the middle. Means ask, how's my relatives doing? A greeting to my relatives. I had to do a bio. I didn't have to, but I did a bio maybe 2-3 months ago, and I'm going to try and just remember what I said. I introduced myself, or in my bio, as a doorman, and that what that means is I take care of some ceremonial ways, you know, associated with Sundance, which you know, was in my belief was really initiated that way back by our Numu speaking people from some of my historical research, and just mostly, you know, about hearing things from different people. So it was interesting in the movie. I never, I kind of haven't seen the Paya movie in a while, but there was the late John Trudell that was in it at the beginning of the movie, and I just thought that was interesting because it almost made me emotional because I've been kind of just reading about some of the things that he said during his life and some of the messages that he put out. And one basic one was that we are the earth, you know, that as human beings that we hold the water, we hold many of the same mineral composition and elements that the earth has in her. So I just want to acknowledge that, and, and also acknowledge Harry Williams, who was had a lot to do with the movie, and we think about his needs of, where he's not in, his health is not too good. Also acknowledge that another water rights and land and food activists, the Marlon Thompson, the late Marlon Thompson, one of my relatives, our relatives from up in Nevada, Northern Paiute, has gone on, and just kind of learned just pretty recently. So for all the people, all the relatives that have been, struggling for our basic rights to have life, just want to say, just give them that acknowledgement. I don't have much just to, I guess, other than just, say I take care of water, irrigate. Saturday we had our Tatsuano celebration. I was asked to maybe take care of a blessing, so I did that in my simple way, with talking to the water. Even though I didn't see any water, on the ground running, no springs or creeks where I went, but I seen the water in the clouds, and I seen the water in the leaves of the trees and bushes and grass and such. So that's how I communicate with the water. That's how I was taught by my older relatives.
Thank you for that, Monty.
Yeah.
Hello. Again, my name is Kendall Noah. I'm the communication specialist and project coordinator for the Owens Valley Indian Water Commission. Just a little disclaimer about me. I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. My ties to this land is I have 2 children who their mother is a Paiute from this area. We had actually met in Haskell Indian Nations University. I know you don't want to hear a lot about myself, you want to hear from the panelists. And so before we move on, I would just like to reiterate what Monty had said. I kindly ask that everyone keep one of the stars of the films and his family in their thoughts and prayers as he's preparing to leave this earth and go on his next journey. I told you a little bit about me going to school at Haskell Nations University, and my background is in American Indian Studies. But this is such an informative film that many of the general public didn't know even occurred. And me as myself, I didn't know this occurred, here in the Western states. And so I would like to direct my question to Teri, but by no means, if any of the panelists have anything to add, feel free to do so after she answers. Teri, what do you hope people will take away from this film?
Thank you for that, Kendall. That's a great question. For me, I just like to spread awareness that for many years, since the early 1900s, when the Los Angeles Aqueduct was first became operational, around about 1913, I believe it is. This is the area, our homelands is the area that has been supplying Los Angeles with the majority of its drinking water for many years. That has slowly changed as we have entered into these drought periods. And like I mentioned in the film, Los Angeles lost lawsuits and has had to put water out on Patsiata, which is known as the Owens Lake or the Owens Dry Lake, for dust mitigation. It was one point in time the largest source of PM10 and PM2.5 dust pollution in the United States. So, I want people to know that we're not hydrologically connected to Los Angeles, yet the water in our homeland, Paya supplies LA and has helped build Los Angeles to be this prosperous city that it is for the most part. The other thing that I really like for people to take away is to understand that irrigation wasn't invented by somebody else. We did irrigation. We were doing irrigation here forever, basically. That's how we look at the history. And, we were really good at it. As you saw in the film, there was a Tebeju that went out and surveyed the land and decided where the water was going to be spread each year. And we rotated that water so that we could use the water as efficiently as possible to water the areas that needed to be greened. And one of our biggest one of the main subsistence that we relied on was this tuber that came from this tall grass that we called taboose. And these were little tiny tubers that were about the size of a fingernail. And so we grew these by, the thousands of acres in order to help feed ourselves and to sustain ourselves. And so, Western scientific engineering mindset is that, there was, they have their engineering marvel and that was created, and Bureau of Reclamation came in and did all of these great projects to move water, but we were moving water efficiently and slowly across the land using our traditional practices. And the other thing is, it wasn't just the livelihoods of the ranchers and the farmers that were affected when Los Angeles came in and displaced the Paiutes from the farms and the ranches that they were working on, but it was also, our livelihoods as well. And there's even a bigger story that isn't even included in this film that talks about the land and the United States role and the city of Los Angeles's role in taking those lands out of control of the Paiute. Like, we only touched about the land exchange and the trade that happened that created the reservations that we're on right now. But, there's a whole bigger history, and we're working on telling that story in other presentations and eventually through a book that will come out, in the coming years, hopefully. But, the other thing is that I want people to take away is that, we're still here and we're still working towards getting a healthy homeland and to getting back some of that land and water so that we could do things such as having traditional food revitalization and housing for our people and, being good caretakers and stewards of the land.
Thank you for that, Teri. Monty, Paul, you have anything that you want to add?
She covered a lot of that, so I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, Teri, I'm going to ask a little bit further. How has the local support been with the tribal efforts? Can you kind of elaborate on that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How has the local support for tribal efforts for reclaiming land and water, how has that been?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so, we've, as we tell our story through forums such as this, and people get to hear and understand our history. And like I mentioned, we have other presentations that we do that have more detailed information through like PowerPoint and stuff. People have been really wonderful about supporting our efforts and wanting to see things changed up here as far as how water is managed. And we have a lot of local support of wanting land returned back to the tribes and a lot of support in the LA area, in the Los Angeles region and throughout the state of California, and even, nationally. And I've even had people, in other countries participate in some of these screenings that we've done. And it just really, the amount of people that care and are concerned and that actually take action has been wonderful. And we see those efforts continue to grow. The more education that we can get out and getting people organized, it's been really, really good. And we're just kind of getting started. We've been doing that the last couple of years, and it's been fruitful.
Okay, thank you for that, Teri. Well, Paul, I have a question for you. What is your vision for Paya Nadu? What are your hopes for the land, water, and the people?
Thank you, Kendall. I have so many that could go so many places, but I care. A lot of my mentors, I've been actively involved. I became the tribal wastewater operator and irrigation operator for my tribe in 2013, and that's kind of when I started my I don't like to call it political career, but it was when I started getting involved with the tribe and the environmental aspect. I got elected onto the Water Commission that year, Environmental Advisory Board. So I kind of hit the ground running full force, trying to catch up to Teri and Alan Baycock and Monty and the ones that really been, and kind of taking a lot of their visions and putting them into my own as well. So just seeing the people here struggling with water and and how lack of water, to get water to certain places, there's certain streets that we can't get water, that are, you know, having to use domestic water, which, you know, and they finally come to realize, like, they're trying to conserve water up here. But, you know, it was hard for me because I had a hard time with the people going, well, why am I going to conserve water when LA is just taking it? And I mean, and finding an answer for that was extremely, extremely hard. But and at the same time, though, I said, but you got to look around here. We're affecting, because our groundwater is what we're pumping from, and the more we have to pump, because more people want to use water, the more it's going to damage our environment with the cone of depression in our surrounding areas, which we're having enough impacts of that. So, you know, I like to see a lot of our water stay here, you know, for the people, not just the Indian people, but for all the people. You know, I hear so many different things about, like, everything's drying up. You know, Big Pine gets picked on the most with the pumping. They have these fish hatcheries that which I love fish, don't get me wrong, but it's the over amount of pumping that they're doing, just to using that fish hatchery as an excuse to why they're pumping. These wells are exempt, so we're getting minimum 20,000 acre feet of water pumped from us, which is 6.5 billion gallons of water, which is a tremendous amount. So, but my vision for Paya Hunadu is just to kind of see it go back to the old ways. You know, when I watch Paya, I think like Tuveju, like, you know, hearing Harry say, like, you know, he was elected on, and when he did that, you know, it was more than just a job. It was something that's going to provide to the people. And, you know, so I just want to see all the people benefit from this, especially us. We're you know, we're stuck on, you know, from all this plush land we had in the late 1800s to 279 acres for Big Pine Tribe. It's you know, it's a pretty substantial hit to us. And I like to just see us gain a little bit more and get more involved as the indigenous people, to help them understand of how to divert water, or how to take water, just not a canal and it just goes straight down one way to one other way. Like, let's spread it. Let's get some, you know, let's get some more life form. Our vegetation's dying. So I like to just see the Paya Hunadu come back to the land of flowing water, where it was that way. The way it sounded is the way it would look. So I mean, that's my vision for where we can go. And for my kids, you know, I'm the kids, my grandkids' kids, you know, I mean, my grandson has to play in a little tiny little thing with the irrigation valve, and that's when, if I could get the water over here or not. So I mean, it's a tough situation for a lot of people, and especially us up here, when all we hear is they want to take, you know, that word take. And I think as us as growing up, our parents told, don't take something that's not yours. And you heard in the video, what was Mulholland's words when he opened the aqueduct, when he broke that wine or champagne bottle, all excited, there it is, take it. I mean, you're taking something that's not yours, and it's been that way for hundreds of years now. I mean, 100 years now, and it's not seeming like it wants to stop. And I'm trying to do whatever I can in my power to keep as much water as we can where the water comes from. So that's my answer for you there, Kendall. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's a great answer. And Paul, has there been any instances where, like, the groundwater was reduced in the pumping that they were getting, and there's like a reflux of kind of like a increase in the levels of groundwater? Has there been any instances like that?
Well, not really. I mean, even when we got a good runoff here, 2016, 17, or 17, 18, one of those two, we had a good, pretty good runoff year. And our groundwater table on the reservation, which is like 5 miles north of those exempt wells that pump 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we really didn't see too much of an increase in the groundwater table, which was surprising, you know. Okay. So we have some wells that in our groundwater monitoring wells we have here, we have like 5 of them, and like 3 of them are 80 feet down. So I mean, you could understand that there's not, the recharge isn't really happening the way Big Pine is getting pumped. The hydraulic flow of the water normally would go to the river. Well, it's hanging a right going towards those pumps. It's messing up with the whole ecosystem and the whole environment, and the whole nature of flows drying up. A natural spring where my family came from is one of the bigger hits. But so we're definitely working on things and trying to coordinate with people and working, so we're definitely getting a lot more eyes on this situation. So
has there been any instances where we have received allyship and that's been key into helping like any of the tribes in this area?
A little bit right now. Like Teri said, it feels new, but even though we've been working so hard to get where we are now, like doing these presentations and getting our, COVID hit, we were really in the full swing of things pre-COVID. I mean, we were doing a lot of outreach, a lot of these presentations, and we noticed that there's more eyes open, when the governor did his declaration of, apologizing to the Indians. I really think that helped framework a lot more people in the state to want to try to look to the injustices that we have. So we are getting some more. We did a presentation, from the tribe to the Civic Club here, which we really never worked with the Civic Club before. I mean, so like little doors are opening and things are happening in that way, but it's a slow process. So but they are looking good.
Okay, well thank you for that, Paul. So my next question I'm going to direct to Monty. Monty, how is the next generation, like today's youth, tomorrow's leaders, how are they involved in the efforts of the Water Commission?
You said the next generation?
Yes.
With my job as a THPO, the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer of Bishop Tribe, I'm working with like the Park Service, the United States Park Service in Yosemite, to get youth there to do black oak restoration in the lower elevations of Yosemite. Then next year, they want to, through a lady named Irene Vasquez, the Southern Miwok lady, to get restoration of the meadows in Tuolumne, which is a higher elevation that's more Numu, more native, more Paiute speaking people where it's closer to us. And so that's one way. And then the Water Commission for years has been using environmental educational camps to teach our youngsters about what we need to do. I'm working with the DQ University to develop curriculum and using some of the people that work for my tribe that are environmental specialists and curriculum specialists, McKinsey and the people from whether it be Dragons or anybody else that want to help build curriculum so we could teach in the public schools as well as teach ourselves to be teachers. So that's kind of something that, trying to engage the youngsters or the youth. We've been reviving our cultural stuff. Events are Tuva Nuga, our ceremonies, our Pine Nut blessing ceremonies. And we just got done doing this Tatswano this past weekend. And seeing youngsters there, learning our Nayagui, our Indian ways that we've been doing, and sharing food. So hopefully, and keeping the Water Commission group, keeping them, not that they've been doing a good job, the staff, to get involved with the agricultural events that we've been doing. So I think that's all going to come to get our young people involved in FFA, Future Farmers of America, 4-H, and maybe even develop our own indigenous blend of tech, or traditional ecological knowledge, indigenous information, as I call it.
Okay.
Yeah, and Kendall, I'd like to add that, whenever we have the opportunity, whatever forum it is, to educate our youth and to train them on, you know, knowing their history and their language. We have a really good language program. And anytime that we put on, and not just we, like our organization, but, you know, all the tribes put on events, they always incorporate a language component to it. So helping our youth to remember and understand, you know, their ties to the land. That's something we do with our environmental youth camps. We've been fortunate to be able to take groups of youth to participate in a variety of different activities. When Walking Water did their walks, it was, you know, these walks over a period of 3 years. And when they were down in Los Angeles, we were fortunate enough to have the resources to bring a group of kids to come down and to interact with the Tongva people and with the people that from all over the world that came to participate in that walk, and to teach them. And, you know, we're trying, when we do our youth events, I always like our environmental camps, I like to have a component where we have the kids get up and speak, because I believe that teaching our children not to fear public speaking and to be comfortable with public speaking helps prepare them to be advocates. But we're also teaching them about being stewards of the land. And so a lot of our activities, we always include some type of restoration aspect to it, so that we can get the kids outdoors and get them on the land and have them do something physically that makes a difference and helps improve Mother Earth, whether it's closing off trails from, you know, hikers that, you know, hike all over to get to the rock climbing areas, to invasive species control, weed control, water quality activities, helping to clean up our waterways. So, you know, that's one way. We're also working with UCLA to have some of our youth work with youth from Los Angeles to put on this youth conference, which will be our youth, the indigenous people from Los Angeles and students from UCLA putting on a conference, you know, just for them. So there's a lot of things that we do with the youth, and we realize that, you know, they're our future and they're our caretakers, going to be, you know, caretakers of the land. So we do what we can to prepare them and to rise them up to be the leaders and the stewards that they are going to be. And it's not just indigenous youth. I do a lot of outreach to high schools and to colleges, and I'm talking to really young, you know, students like 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old students, because, you know, there are going to be our decision makers and our caretakers as well. So it's important, you know, that it's not just the indigenous youth, but, you know, youth across the board.
Okay, Terry, thank you for that. Terry, we have a couple of questions, you know, from the Q&A, and I think this question right here just kind of highlights both of them. What can people do to support the tribes?
Okay, so, you know, one of the things that I wanted to touch on, you know, especially, you know, given the audience that we have, is that one of the issues that we've run into with respect to the first users water rights or the prior appropriation water rights is that you have to have this continuous uninterrupted use. And we don't necessarily have that, because in 1863, it was mentioned in the film, there was a forced march removal where over 900 Paiutes were forcibly marched by the United States Cavalry out of our homelands all the way down to Fort Tejon, which is in the Grapevine area, north of Los Angeles, south of Bakersfield. And when that happened, that enabled the farmers and the ranchers to move in and really take over those water bodies and those lands. And, you know, when we came back, we started working for those farmers and ranchers, but we never were really able to take that land and that water back. And I know there's a lot of, you know, scholars that recognize that indigenous water use should be considered a first use. But because we lack treaties in the state of California, there needs to be changes in those laws and that pertain to water rights within California. The other thing that, you know, people can do is understand, you know, participate in events like this, reach out to decision makers when you understand what our issues are. If you go to our website, and I'll put it in the chat, I have a call to action document on there that tells you who to call, who to talk to. And, these are people within the United States Department of Interior, and tell them, we want you guys to work on behalf of the tribes and to help them get a water settlement that was, and their water rights and land as intended by Congress when they did the land exchange. And, talk to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Board of Commissioners, send them letters, emails, reach out to them, the mayor's office, the city council, and just share within the people that you interact with and you talk to our story and our need for help. And if you know of resources that could help us, we're still looking for, certain experts and always looking for lawyers to help us. We're very small reservations and tribes. We're not high resource tribes. We're not large gaming tribes that have a lot of money. We're really actually economically disadvantaged tribes and communities. So any kind of help that we could get, like I said, and go to our website, help advocate for us. Those are the things that people can do to help.
Teri, is there somewhere someone could donate to a legal fund? Is there like a separate a donation button or anything like that?
Yeah, so if you go to the website, oviwc.org, which I just put in the chat, there's a link there for PayPal. We do accept other forms of support as well.
Okay. Paul, do you have anything to add about how can people support the tribes?
Yeah, I could caveat off of Teri. I just, like she said, we're not a big resource. And I feel like sometimes the bigger tribes have a little more action. There's more finance for legal stuff. But I think too, is like they can give something back, and we want to give back more like just to our environment and not more like material things. And I think sometimes that's why it's a lot harder so any little support, I mean, like she said, reaching out, however you feel in any way, if someone, be like, hey, these tribes might be, you want to take a look at it, reach out to Teri. She's the executive director of the Water Commission. So she's in office pretty much all the time. So yeah, so anything like that, however, any inkling somebody feels, go with it. We can use as much help as we can. So thank you.
There's a question in the Q&A, and I want to ask Monty this. When historic water rights are hopefully restored to the Paiute tribe, how will it primarily be used?
Kendall, can you repeat the question?
Yes. When historic water rights are hopefully restored to the Paiute tribe, how will it primarily be used?
It has to be used on our ground to restore our as much as we can, our indigenous way of life, our foods, our medicines. And I realize, with it being said by I think Teri said the marvels of engineering of Mulholland, Lippincott, and BOR, Bureau of Reclamation, and looking at that really kind of built in or set up the 1872 General Mining Act, which I think has a lot to do with our climate problems and looking at all the dam projects on the Snake River, the Columbia River, the San Joaquin River, et cetera, that you have this you have a breakdown, a catastrophic breakdown in that we're seeing happen. And Mr. Alan Savory, the founder of Holistic Resource Management, he termed it maybe desertification. And so we've been, some of us have been learning from that. And since the 1970s, and some of us have been a part of the struggle, or at least being active with the Pyramid Lake struggle that Teri mentioned took 100 years to, for a settlement, and they're still working on getting that a little more clarified and a little more beneficial to them. the Indians are from Alcatraz occupation back in 1969, 70, they went there to support the Pyramid Lake. And so that's kind of how long or what the duration it's taken. And so I'm just hoping that, you know, with a settlement that we could hold back enough water, like Paul, I think Paul was saying, to make our valley, our country, our mountains a little more healthy, because the water has a lot to do with the health of ourselves or the environment. So that's what I want to see come out of it, that we have better, we have better nutrition, we have better health, and that we're able to share this blessings of good nutrition and good health with our neighbors, that all of us could eat good in this in our region, our bioregion.
Thank you for that, Monty. Well, that's all for my questions that I have for the panel discussion. I'm going to transition this over to Amanda Ford. And I think maybe she might have a couple of questions that she wants to ask you all.
Hey, thank you, Kendall. And thank you so much to the panelists, to Teri. This was really an informative and just very great discussion to listen to. Kendall, we want to bring you on to moderate more meetings for us. So if you're available, we'd love to have you on as a guest moderator anytime. It was so wonderful just watching that conversation unfold. So we do have a couple more questions that we have that are coming in, and we have one specifically from the State Water Board. So we were just, one of the questions that we have specifically are, what specifically can the state water boards do to help resolve these issues? So you do have a lot of agency folks on from Cali, PA, the water boards and other things. What would you like them to hear to help you mostly resolve these issues? And Teri, if you want to start, or Teri, Paul.
Yeah, so as I had mentioned earlier, like, I don't know, you know, what it would take, you know, from the state water boards in order to look at changing some of the laws, you know, with respect to first users' water rights, and how we can all like come together and I think maybe bringing us together to brainstorm and look at options for recognizing Indigenous people's water use and Indigenous people as the first users of water. Because, you know, we do not have treaties. You know, we don't have a treaty. There was unratified treaties in California that were, you know, locked away by Congress. I think it was 18 unratified treaties. That didn't include us. We were really remote. The area that we lived in when California became a state in 1850, we were just barely starting to get people from outside of our community coming in. And when California became a state, we had, I think it was 2 years to assert rights to land and water. We didn't know about that. There was no way of us knowing about it. By the time people really start coming in, it was beyond that period. So what we could use from the state water boards is trying to figure out how to recognize those water rights. And it's going to really take an overhaul of the system, and it's going to upset a lot of ways of how we have been doing business and carrying and managing the water. I think also advocating and making ways for tribes to have more management and stewardship of land and water is something that the state can help us with. We would like to have decision-making authority in you know, different arenas. One of the things that's happening in Los Angeles is they're working on this project called Operation Next, where they're going to source about 70% of their drinking water locally through recycling and stuff. And we totally support that 100%. But despite them having an increase of local water use, water available for their use, they're not looking at correlating that to a reduction in the amount of water that they're exporting from our homelands to Los Angeles. In fact, in their scoping documents, they talked about being able to do a water exchange with Metropolitan Water District. And to me, you know, puts up red flags that, okay, so you're going to maybe reduce your reliance on our water, but you're still going to take it and possibly sell it or exchange it to Metropolitan Water District. So having things in place that would help prevent that would be extremely helpful. When the Groundwater Sustainability Act came out a few years back, unbeknownst to the people here in the Valley, the Indian and the non-Indian community, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power worked on having an amendment written to that law that enabled their water, that they classified their water, so the water they're exporting from up here, to be exempt from the sustainability plan, and which really didn't make any sense. So, you know, being mindful of those kinds of things that have, you know, a big impact and a large effect on us. So, you know, in all honesty, the groundwater sustainability plan doesn't help us here in the Valley because the biggest water user and water taker is exempt from that law. But, you know, just having the open dialogue, and I know Jared Blumenfeld, he's been out to our homelands many times. He's got a good working knowledge of what's happening here. The governor, you know, has the California Truth and Healing Council working, you know, on the apology and trying to make things right. So making ways for us to put those tools into place. Felicia Marcus was another really good advocate when she was with state water boards. And, you know, prior to that, the administrator for US EPA Region 9. She's, you know, we brought her out here many times. So it's, I think what would be a really good step is having the state bring all these people together, including us and other tribes, and sit down and really, you know, work out some actionable items that could help.
Hey, thanks for that roadmap, Teri. We are noting that, and we do have folks on that are listening. So thank you for sharing that such detail. Paul or Monty, are there any things that you'd like to add that you can?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to add a little bit. So you know, I think that it's maybe even like letters of support to these agencies. I don't know if it's allowable or whatever, just or just working with, you know, working with tribes and seeing their needs, because I'm pretty sure we're not the only tribe that has all this water coming from where they were originally from, and you only get so much of it, right? I mean, it's and it's not like we need it for anything else but, like, you know, ecological or you know, irrigational purposes, you know, for grazing. You know, we could get some cattle hopefully and kind of live our real sovereign way, where we're not just going down the street to the store, where we can just kind of do it in our own land. So I mean, I think like Teri said, though, having the state come together with some of the tribes and you know, and figuring out like what are some of the needs that would be able to better help them, because, you know, learning from the state that you know, we're all stakeholders. Anybody that's a resident of California, we have a stakeholder in the water. So, but we never see it. Like, we don't know, right? So I think that maybe like even letters to, you know, DWP saying, you know, hey, we're supporting the tribes, or you guys do anything for them? They're asking us if we can look into getting more water. You know, our first in time, first in line, like that doesn't seem to take effect in the state of California. I mean, we've been here forever and we got no action. We're the last on the list. So I think maybe just getting with us, sitting down and seeing what legally you all can do on some of the asks that we would be able to work from there, you know, and it'd just be like the general question like everybody else, what can we do? I think that people have an idea of what to do. I think that if they just take that step forward and make that move, it would definitely be beneficial to, I mean, because what we can't get any worse is what I'm saying. I mean, I hope I shouldn't say that, but I mean, we're getting very minimal amount of what we need. Like I said, we're 279 acres. We got people living with people with people. And it's just like, we need more land. We need more water. We need more water with the land. I mean, it's just that we're just always on the back burner. You know, we'll look at it later, just like in the 39 land exchange agreement with the water, like they haven't looked at it yet. You know, we'll need technically we'll need like 2/3 votes of the city of Los Angeles people. We don't, you know, and so we need to get outreach. We need the support. So anything that the state feels that they could do, like write a letter asking, you know, are you guys working with the tribes to better equip their needs with their growing communities and with their water and land and things like that, just to kind of, you know, points it out like, oh, there is people watching. So that's all I have. Thank you all again. I think this is really wonderful. It's really a joy to my heart to know that the state is looking in and really being helpful. And this is a good start for hopefully something more to come for us as well. You know, so thank you.
We hope so too. Well, thank you, Teri and Paul, for answering that. So Monty, we're going to have you wrap up this discussion point with any final thoughts or messages that you'd like to share, and then we're going to go on to the closing. So Monty, is there anything you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, just a few days ago, I got check out this diversion that takes water out of Levining Creek that should be flowing into Mono Lake. And I know the Department of Water Resources Control Board made a ruling, I forget what year it was, but they're supposed to bring the level back to that lake. And it hasn't happened. And going back to around maybe 2004, after I learned it from a Mono Lake Indian up there, the late John Vendero Jr., how this diversion works at and how it goes into Grant Lake, you know, via a tunnel, then across the highway 395 and into the Owens River watershed, and just how all like I mentioned earlier, how a lot of these water diversions are really impacting the environment of the world, not just here in the Owens Valley, and so to maybe look at upholding your decision to restore the lake, I think would be a good one. Another would be to look at the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and one of the provisions, I forget which one, what article, to allow the indigenous to have free, prior, informed consent over the environmental, cultural, heritage aspects of their communities, and then hopefully how can we all work together to do away with the 1872 General Mining Act, which has been part of a lot of the destruction of the West, and you know, all the going back to the 1840s, the California gold rush, and you know how that's impacted us till at the moment. So how can we deal with all these catastrophic, and then I could go into nuclear stuff too, you know, but
yeah.
Anyway, that's just a couple points I just conclude with.
Well, thanks for bringing it back home to the to the United Nations Declaration for Rights of Indigenous People, because it really is multilateral, multi-agency. What you're doing down in Paiute country is affected globally, and how decisions are made for Indigenous people worldwide affects the Paiute too. And we're all pieces of that. And with that, I really want to thank all of our panelists, Teri, Marriott for being the leader behind this, everyone behind the scenes that's making this happen. I do want to share my screen one last time, just to give you some information that's coming up. I'm going to look to the side here, so you'll get to see the profile of my face while I share my screen. And we are going to just share. So if you do have any questions for State Water Board regarding any tribal things or any ideas, please do email us at triballiaison@waterboards.ca.gov. We have a whole tribal affairs unit behind the scenes to interact with, to answer questions. We have a bunch of different programs that we're working on. Also check out the State Water Board's Tribal Affairs webpage. There's a lot of resources on that, who we're working with, how to get into consultation, and just a lot of great information. So check that out. And that's a bit.ly, so it's shortened, so it's bit.ly. And then also, if you haven't already, please register for the rest of the parts of this, the Data Science Symposium. The bit.ly there is on your screen. And there's a bunch of things to choose from moving on, so make sure that you're choosing the days that you're interested in. And with that, I just want to say thanks again. It has been such an honor to be here, to listen to Kendall moderate this, such esteemed guests, and hear the stories. And I hope that this was a great opportunity for the folks that are attending and participating too. So with that, just want to say a sense of gratitude. Thank you. Have a great night and have a great weekend. Stay safe. Bye.